Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Keys of the Castle podcast. Today, I'm going to go ahead and continue the series on Star Wars Rise of the Resistance ride at both Disneyland and Disney World. And I was doing a bit of research on this ride, and I was looking at just some of the special effects behind the pre-show. I was looking at the the layout map of the actual ride track and path, and that sort of thing. And I threw out some ideas as well on a previous episode, on the first or second one, for some improvements to the ride that could have been made just to make it more, realistic, believable, enjoyable, all that stuff. I'm still searching for it. I wasn't able to find the quote or clip of the Imagineer Tony Baxter that I was looking for. So it's this idea where Disney is creating these stories within rides that the guests are experiencing that are more believable. So this would be Star Tours and Indiana Jones, where it's more believable to a guest to believe that they're just a tourist in space in Star Tours ride, or that they are going on a tour of the archaeology site that Indiana Jones is in. It's easier to believe that that's more believable than that you're actually, part of the rebel resistance, with Finn and Rey and, Princess Leia and stuff like that. So, that's just a contrast to Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. And I do want to try to keep this channel and this podcast sort of positive and inspirational. So I've said it before on all the other episodes, it's a great ride. It's amazing. The special effects that I was looking up are amazing. There's YouTube videos, of course, that you can look up for the special effects on this, and it'll show you the special effects of, I saw one that showed the special effect of how the hologram of Rey works in that first pre-show. It also there's a video, I think the same one, that showed how the transport works. So it's the pre-show portion that's after the Rey hologram pre-show. So this is kind of like what I'm calling like pre-show 2. So basically pre-show 2, the way that works, and that's really cool, and how and why, like, you go in one direction and then you leave through the same doors in a completely other direction. If you've been on the ride, or if you have a really keen eye, then you might be able to notice it on video. But it's really cool once you're actually, riding that ride. It's definitely some really good Disney magic there that they place in there with that. But so there's, I was looking up the special effects of that, and it really gave me some good insight into how this ride could have been improved. Again, obviously, it's a great ride. It's incredible. And there's just a couple things that stick out to me so far. So I would say the biggest thing so far in kind of my thinking and learning about the ride is that, number one, I've said this on all the other episodes, number one is kind of like the storyline. Like, there's one, I was like going through the script of the ride, and I think just the execution of the plot line is not great, and the plot line itself, I think, could have been adjusted. So even though, again, in contrast to Star Tours and Indiana Jones, it is, in my opinion, a little bit less believable that, we as guests riding this ride are actually part of the resistance and on some sort of mission or whatever. it's still could have totally worked, and it does work, but I think it could work even better. And I think what definitely my main thing that I think they could have done better, and I mean, really they could still change it, is to make it more clear early on that the guests are supposedly meant to be like a prisoner transport. Or, sorry, let me back up for a second. So, make the premise that the guests riding the ride are actually the prisoner transport, like we're meant to be. Because I know there's a line in the script of the ride when you first get on a ride, and I don't think it's Finn. I always forget his name. But he says, tell them it's a prisoner transport. So there is that aspect of it on the ride, which of course is where I got the idea, was from the ride itself. But I think if the entire premise of the ride would have been, riding the ride is meant to be, we are riding in the ride vehicle because we're being taken in this, bot in this vehicle transport. We're taken, and we're just being taken as prisoners from one place to another, and then we start to try to escape. So I don't know how there's a way to more clearly communicate that, but I just feel like the storyline is not clear enough, because I know we're in the prisoner cell, but I think it should be, I think what it could have been was something more along the lines of, and I don't know how this would connect with being in the jail cell, but basically something along the lines of, we know we're getting onto a ride, we know we're getting onto a some sort of transportation device because we're prisoners. I think that's what it should have been, but I think they still could have made it like, oh, well, the resistance is actually taking over the transport and we're trying to escape from, the Death Star or whatever we're on. Which brings me to my next point, actually, which is the track layout and path layout and just the overall layout of the ride. I think what would have been really, really cool is to almost make the ride and I guess you would call it the show building, the ride, building structure, in the shape of the freaking Death Star. Like, even if you don't make the building as the shape, I think experiencing the ride and somehow making it feel like we're definitely on a Death Star and you can tell from the inside, I think that would have been really cool. So I'm not sure if there may be some sort of element that's already implemented in the ride as far as this specific idea. I don't know, but I don't think it's clear enough if there is any at all, but I kind of it doesn't seem like to me when I was looking at the track layout and, having been on the ride several times, it doesn't really seem like that's the case. But I think that would have made things much more realistic. And I guess the last couple things, those would be my two biggest things. So I know I said there's three things. There's actually a bunch of things, but I think the two biggest things that I can think of are, changing the, I guess, plot line or something of the guests being the prisoners and, making it that the ride vehicles are something that we already know that we're getting on them, and we already know we're going to be taken as a prisoner transport, whatever, but making it to where instead, we try to break out and whatever, we try to escape. Anyway, so that's the number one thing. I think number two would be the shape of the actual ride. So I think it's a Death Star. I think I'm saying that right. but or the Star Destroyer, whatever it is. I think it's a Death Star, but either way, if I'm getting that mixed up, I apologize. But either way, having the ride be in the shape of, I think it's kind of like almost like a triangular shape. So I think that would have been really cool. And again, maybe there's an aspect of that is already applied to the ride. I don't know. I can't really tell. It doesn't look like it, but maybe there's something I'm missing. It doesn't look like it, doesn't seem like it. But again, maybe there's something I'm missing. But I think that is the other big thing that would have made it like really, really, really much more realistic. I think those two things would have made the biggest differences. And the other couple of things that I can think of, so let's see, that it would be 1, 2, 3 other things would be, I'll go in order, in kind of like chronological order in how you experience the ride. Number 1 is the, and I think I may have touched on this on the last episode, but 1 would be the first transport that you get in, so basically the pre-show ride. So it's like pre-show number 2 or whatever, so it's the pre-show transport vehicle ride type thing that's after the hologram of Rey. So that vehicle transport, I think it would have been really cool, which this is kind of ironic because of how much I'm against, and a lot of people are against Disney using like screens and stuff like that. But I mean, this is Star Wars. Like this is obviously the exception. This is where you do whatever you can to make it Star Warsy. So I think it would have been cool to use screens all around the transport, not just the small bit that you can see in the front and in the back. I think you could see a portion in the back, or maybe it's just a little monitor screen. Either way, you can't see much, but I think it would have been really cool to just have more of a view to where it looks almost like we're looking out the window, and we can see outside, and we can see, it looks, it's like a Batuu Disneyland, whatever, like, you know what I mean, where when you're inside the vehicle transport and looking outside of these supposed windows, obviously they're not actual windows, they're just screens, but where it's not obvious that it's Disneyland, and you're at Star Wars Land, it still looks like Batuu, but it still also looks like the place that you literally just walked into the transport from, that area. So I think that would have been much more realistic and made it to where it's a bit more convincing that you're actually lifting off the ground from where we are just at, where we just boarded from, and taking off and going into space. Almost like Star Tours, I guess, which is a whole other crazy idea that I have. I think it would be really cool to have a ride an experience where you go from a Star Tours type attraction and it's just a simulator, but it kind of immerses you in feeling like you've left, from some sort of, base or whatever, and have gone to, after, 5-10 minutes on Star Tours, you feel like you're really somewhere else. So I think that would be really cool to have that ride experience, and then go on to a different ride like Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. Like, can you imagine if you've ever seen the original Star Tours attraction, which is the best, you just can't beat it for several reasons. Maybe I should do an episode on that. But can you imagine going on Star Tours and the part where you get caught in the tractor beam? That's actually where that portion of the ride ends. The doors open, and then you have to get on board of the Death Star or Star Destroyer or whatever, and then you get on the ride that's like Rise of the Resistance, and like that would be insane. That would be absolutely insane. But anyway, I think it would have been cool to make that initial pre-show ride transport for pre-show number 2 on Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. I think it would have been really cool to even just use screens as an effect to just portray that you are, actually leaving from where you're from and going into space, and going somewhere completely else, galaxy far, far away type stuff. So that's one. And then the next thing would be, again, I talked about this last time, a bit more, so I'm not going to go super into it this time, but is that Stormtrooper room, so what I would call pre-show 3. So the Stormtrooper room, I think it would have actually been really cool to have a smaller squadron of Stormtroopers kind of on the side, on the corner somewhere, or I don't know, however they set it up, however, they're the experts when it comes to those details, I guess, but, and then have some Stormtrooper characters in that room, just like actual characters walking around, like cast members. Come on, that would be insane. Like, I get that the animatronics of the Stormtroopers move and have small movements and stuff like that, and it seems real. It is really cool, and it's amazing. I don't know why I guess I'll put the onus on me. I don't know why I'm a little bit less impressed than most people have been. Maybe it's just because I saw the videos before I saw before I was there in person. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that would have made the bigger difference. I'm not sure, but either way, I think it would have been. I think the star of that portion, that pre-show specifically, so pre-show number 3, I think the star in, no pun intended, I think the star of that pre-show is the back wall where you're looking out into outer space. Like, if you can bring that closer to the audience and put more detail into that, like, that would be insane. That would, I think, truly be insane. Put it close enough to where you can see more of it, put enough detail into it where it looks as realistic as possible, but put it far away enough to where you can't really look into it enough to where it's like, oh yeah, that's definitely super, super fake, Anyway, that's the second thing. And besides that, I would say the last thing is similar. So the last thing I can think of off the top of my head is the canon portion of the ride. So which from what I've heard, I think they changed that portion to where the cannons don't move anymore. So there's a portion of the ride where you're riding past in front of / beside, I guess, however you want to look at it, some big cannons. And it's almost like they took this idea that would work so much better for like a pirate ride, like cannons sliding back and forth from the side of the ship, and you're, walking in front of them and dodging them and stuff. So I think that's the bit that they changed, actually, is that the cannons don't move anymore from what I've heard. I'm not sure if that's true, but I think I've heard that. So that portion of the ride, see, that's, again, I feel like that's one of the best and worst parts of the ride for me, because when you look out into space, it's when you look out of to your right, I think it is, when you look into that wall or screen or whatever it is where you can see outside, and you're looking at outer space or whatever, the galaxy, whatever, that's like one of the coolest aspects of the ride to me, and I think a lot of people would agree. It's amazing. So what kind of takes you out of the reality of that bit is, to me, I don't know how you would fix this. I have no solution, so I apologize with this one. But is the aspect that the cannons are shooting something outside. Yeah, it's this weird idea of like, wait, is there a window there or not? Like, because if there's not a window there, then why are we not getting sucked out into outer space? Or why is there not at least a bunch of wind being like blown at us and, away from us and all sorts of stuff? Like, why is it not feeling like, oh, this is a giant open window into outer space? So it definitely creates quite a bit of dissonance to me. It creates quite a bit of immersion cognitive dissonance, I suppose. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but that's the best way I can put it. Yeah, creates a disconnect there for sure, like a dissonance of disconnect, to where you're not really sure what to believe. Is there a window there? Is there not a window there? Like, how are these cannons able to fire out into outer space, whatever? So I know that these are all things that are nuanced details that most people don't think about, but I think that's kind of the keys to the castle, I guess you could say. That's kind of, where the magic is the, the details and the nuances of these rides and experiences and attractions, and the detailed nuances of these immersive experiences, and what goes into the details of these stories and sets and everything that are set up. So I don't know how that could be changed, but I feel like that definitely creates some disconnect or dissonance there. So that's the last of all of my critiques for this, for now, for this episode, I think, for Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. Again, the canon scene, I don't know how to fix that. I think maybe it would be cool if they made, I don't know. I don't know. I think that's I'll have to think on that and maybe come back to this and maybe do like one more episode to wrap everything up, because I don't know how that would be fixed or what would replace it. There's just too many things. Like, if you took the cannons out, there's too many options for me. And also it's just like, what do you put in there? Somebody could think of something cool, but I can't. So yeah, I don't know what that would be replaced with, but I do think that kind of brings guests subconsciously out of the immersive experience, out of the reality of the ride, and back into the reality of, oh yeah, we're just riding a ride right now. I don't know why they did this like piratey, like pirate shippy type of scene where there's cannons. Yeah, I didn't get that. I'll you know what I'll do is I'll go and I'll watch that scene again. I'll go over it and see how that goes. I'll just kind of review it again and see if it's really as bad as I'm making it out to be right now. But anyway, I'll cut it off there. That's enough rambling and stuff like that. But I hope this was a bit of a fun episode in terms of kind of thinking through Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, how it can be better. It's a great ride. There's, it's the most amazing thing about this ride is that they did build something so cool that it does just open up your mind into a whole bunch of other possibilities. So, like, I do want to give some credit to Disney for, like, they did that, Like, I wouldn't be able to come up with all these cool ideas if they hadn't built this really cool ride in the first place. So, definitely, of course, this is not just an episode of just, like, bashing Disney and the ride. If anything, it's the opposite. It's taking this really cool thing that had not been done before in a lot of ways, and thinking of just how it could have been even cooler, and all of these ideas, which may be not even cool and they could be useless, but to me they're potential. To me, they seem fun. So yeah, I wouldn't have been able to even think of any of these fun ideas if it weren't for such a cool ride in the first place. So yeah, I'll give Disney that credit for sure. So anyway, I want to sign off of this episode with just a bit of an inspirational line and encouragement that has kind of been something I wanted to close out the episodes with, just to close out on sort of a positive or inspirational thought. And so thanks so much for listening. And with that, just want to encourage you with this thought. Whatever is good, whatever is true, whatever is pure, think on these things. So that's it, guys. Thanks for listening if you have, and take care.